Democrat lawmaker taking a bold stand in front of Secretary Kristi Noem, not with empty rhetoric, but with facts, oversight, and accountability. The lawmaker didn't just say, "I disagree." They went line by line through her budget priorities, exposing how this administration is manipulating numbers, hiding cuts, and prioritizing politics over actual safety.
Madam Secretary, I appreciate your rosy report on the Department of Homeland Security. I have a different view on where the department is today and where you, and by you I'm going to refer to the President, the administration, and you as Secretary, are taking it as reflected into your actions and budgets, not just in your words. But I think it's important that we start by some points of agreement. First of all, I think you would agree, I hope you would agree, that the 270 or so thousand members of the DHS workforce, if that's what the figure is now, and we would like to find out what the figure is at some point, spread across your 22 departments, all deserve our praise for their dedication, for serving our country every day, and they also deserve our professional respect. I think we would also agree that the efforts to legally reduce illegal immigration and illegal drugs of the past couple of years across our borders are paying off and should be continued. So I agree with you on those things. Overall, however, and focusing on the budget, because this is the Appropriations Committee, what little you have shown us thus far of your FY 2026 budget, it looks like you are definitely overfunding some efforts, mainly for messaging purposes, at the expense of some other efforts that are really critical, such as cybersecurity, disaster prevention and mitigation, transportation security. And you're using budget gimmicks to misdirect and conceal your intent. On your budget gimmicks, you claim a 65% increase in DHS's overall budget, targeted at the border, drugs, and the Coast Guard. But all of that increase or more is loaded into your separate reconciliation bill. You have essentially, for this purposes of this committee, level funded DHS and loaded all of the extra money into reconciliation. First of all, aside from completely sidetracking this particular committee, which is supposed to be doing that funding, you should know, if you don't already, that this is not an appropriate use of reconciliation. It's intended to maintain the illusion of responsible budgeting. It certainly is holding needed DHS increases, which many of us would support in other situations, hostage to your overall reconciliation plan of continuing tax cuts for billionaires and slashes in critical programs like Medicaid. So the question I have, and it's a rhetorical question since I'm making a statement here, is why don't you just come into this committee and say it straight? We need a 65% or more increase in DHS to actually protect our national security. Your increase is also heavily skewed to the border generally and CPB specifically, some $20 billion, all of it in reconciliation. And nobody disputes that CPB needs help. I've been to the border 3 times myself. I've spent time with the agents, and certainly personnel and equipment costs are necessary. But a question that I have from an oversight perspective is, if you are claiming such success at the border, which without spending all of this extra money, which you're now asking for, do we need to do that at the expense of other programs? And I mean the non-personnel stuff. You're also loading half of your reconciliation increase into the U.S. Coast Guard, $21 billion. And everybody agrees that the Coast Guard needs help. It's critical in the Indo-Pacific, where you have actually withdrawn from the Indo-Pacific, which I think was a tremendous mistake. Why don't you just ask for that in your base budget rather than trying to hide and extort it in reconciliation? Your budget also ignores and even attacks other critical functions of DHS, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, which I think we would all agree is critical to direct national defense, but also civilian infrastructure, which is the most exposed right now, and the reliance of foreign countries on our expertise to help them with their cybersecurity, and yet you propose to reduce CISA by 20% in your base budget. And I don't think that you can claim that that's all somehow Biden misdirection. FEMA, another example of misbudgeting in my view. You, first of all, collectively have directed very incorrect and outright mean criticism at FEMA, which is just undeserved by FEMA. And it's time to put the political campaign behind us and acknowledge that FEMA is doing a good job. They did an outstanding job on Maui, and I sat with them on Maui when they were trying their very best and did their very best while their president was criticizing their work. We don't need this, and further, we certainly need to fund them adequately. Transportation Security Administration, same basic observation, a critical agency which you have not adequately funded. So fundamentally, my time is running short. Obviously, this is a critical agency. It deserves to be led responsibly and transparently. It deserves to be budgeted for transparently and responsibly. And until we get there, I do not feel safer under your leadership at DHS.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I can respond quickly. Thank you for your comments, and I'd like to respond to you. If I don't have time today, I will in writing or in answers to other questions. But we have focused on making sure that we're going forward with a Department of Homeland Security that focuses on what our mission is, and that is to secure America's homeland and to do that while being accountable to taxpayers. So every single component I have, 23 different departments, we have gone back to their mission statement on what they were intended to do and put them back on mission. So in CISA, instead of doing censorship, misinformation, disinformation, they're back to securing our critical infrastructure. TSA, all we're doing there in the reductions is reducing empty FTEs that were never filled or don't have TSOs in them now, and asking for TSA officials to do work that they were intended to do, not to do unskilled technical work by monitoring exit lanes. So I could go through all of them that you mentioned. FEMA as well. The president has indicated he wants to eliminate FEMA as it exists today and to have states have more control over their emergency management response. He wants to empower local governments and support them in how they respond to their people. So thank you for identifying what you're concerned about, and I look forward to having conversations with you so that I can answer the questions that you have and reassure you that this Department of Homeland Security is accountable, but it is also going to fulfill the mission for which it was created after the horrific events of 9/11. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Department of Homeland Security was created after 9/11 to protect Americans from evolving threats. That means cybersecurity, disaster preparedness, infrastructure protection, aviation safety, and yes, border security too. But what this administration has done is twist the mission of DHS into a one-dimensional talking point about the border while gutting the very agencies that protect us from real daily dangers. Let's break that down. Cybersecurity, arguably the front line of modern warfare. Our power grids, hospitals, airports, even elections all depend on cyber defense. Cutting funding to CISA by 20% is not just a budget decision, it's a national security risk. Cyber attacks don't make headlines in the same way a border wall does, but they can shut down entire cities and threaten millions of lives. So ask yourself, who benefits when we underfund cybersecurity? It's not the American people, it's foreign adversaries. Then there's FEMA. We've seen record wildfires, deadly hurricanes, and catastrophic floods. FEMA is the agency that steps in when communities are on their knees. Instead of strengthening them, Neom and this administration have attacked FEMA, undermined their credibility, and floated the idea of eliminating it altogether. That's not leadership, that's abandonment. Imagine telling the people of Maui, or Puerto Rico, or Florida after a hurricane that FEMA isn't coming because states should handle it on their own. That isn't empowerment, that's neglect. And transportation security. TSA officers are the ones making sure bombs and weapons don't get onto planes. Underfunding them while claiming the cuts are just empty positions is a dangerous game. It may sound like a technical adjustment, but in practice it means longer lines, fewer officers, and weaker security. The most telling part is how the money is being shifted. Instead of asking for honest increases in the DHS base budget, the administration is hiding billions in a separate reconciliation bill. Why? To hold national security funding hostage to tax cuts for billionaires and cuts to Medicaid. It's not just a bad budget trick, it's proof that politics is being prioritized over safety. This isn't about fiscal responsibility. It's about forcing through an agenda that helps the wealthy while leaving ordinary Americans more vulnerable. So when the lawmaker said, "I do not feel safer under your leadership at DHS," that wasn't just a personal jab. It was a statement of truth. Because safety is not about slogans. Safety is not about fear-mongering at the border while ignoring cyber threats, natural disasters, and the very infrastructure that holds this country together. Safety means funding the people and the programs that actually protect lives. And here's what we need to take away. Leadership isn't about hiding behind budget gimmicks. It isn't about picking and choosing which parts of the mission matter because they play well in political ads. Leadership means facing the full spectrum of threats, from cyber attacks to climate disasters, and ensuring that every community has the tools to stay safe. The real danger here is normalization. If we normalize the idea that DHS can be gutted of its core responsibilities while overfunding one talking point, then we weaken the entire foundation of national security. If we accept budget tricks as normal, then accountability disappears. If we let leaders treat FEMA, TSA, or CISA as expendable, then we all become more vulnerable. That's why this moment matters. Because Democrats are demanding transparency, responsibility, and a budget that reflects reality, not political theater. And that's exactly what we need if we want to feel safer in this country. So the call to action is clear. Don't let these conversations fade away. Demand accountability. Share these facts with others who may not realize what's really happening behind the numbers. And remember that elections matter, because the people writing these budgets are chosen by us. If we want leaders who put people before politics, safety before slogans, and transparency before tricks, then we have to show up and vote for them.